it's been re-looked at, and midlife is interestingly a way bigger transition now than we've given it in the past. Now, why is this? And this is because we're living longer. I mean, we're talking about living till over 100. We're seeing people live to over 100, yet when is midlife now? Because now midlife has changed. I have been privileged to go to Mexico to what's called the Modern Elder Academy. It is an academy, like a little university, that was started by Chip Conley about 8 years ago. And at this academy, you get to learn how to recalibrate this whole transition. And as I said, I've been there twice. Now, Chip has redesigned this period of going from 35 all the way up to 75. So we're talking about a part of early midlife, middle midlife, and then we have the progression into this later midlife. And it is because we're living longer. So what does that mean? It means that retirement has completely changed, because now we're looking at pushing it out much further. And possibly our companies and our lives aren't really designed for that. But it is important for us just to see how it has extended. I have a short video that I just want to share with you around this midlife transition, because I am so tired of hearing people say to me, midlife is a crisis. And midlife is only a crisis if we're not prepared to put the work in, if we're not prepared to sit back and go, well, I'm changing, I'm recalibrating. What is it that I want? So this video is actually of Chip at a TED talk where he talks about midlife. And I just wanted to share it with you just so that we can put to bed this, this absolute myth about midlife.
What first pops into your mind when you hear the word midlife? Crisis, yes. The dreaded midlife crisis is the butt of all kinds of jokes, but it's also a serious matter. After I lost a few friends to midlife suicide, I decided to create an alternative narrative to the awful way we tend to think of our 40s, 50s, and 60s. And I'm going to share that with you over the next 3 minutes. Midlife is one of 3 life stages that sprouted in the 20th century. Adolescence didn't even exist until 1904, when society realized that just because you hit puberty didn't mean you were an adult. Retirement was popularized nearly a century ago with pensions and Social Security, and then 25 years later with the advent of AARP. I hope you have your card. And retirement communities. Those 2 life stages got a whole lot of love. But there's a life stage in the middle that didn't get much respect. Midlife is the natural outgrowth of the 3 decades of additional longevity we were granted in the 20th century. But all it got was a bad brand, the midlife crisis, which was coined in 1965. Yet research on how happiness evolves as we age shows that from about age 22 or 23 all the way to 45 to 50, there is a long, slow decline in life satisfaction. It bottoms out around 45 to 50, although your mileage may vary. On the other side of that, though, the good news is that from age 50 on, we get happier and happier. It's called the U-curve of happiness. So maybe there's a new framework to think about midlife, one that we learned when we were kids, the magical metamorphosis of the caterpillar to the butterfly. Just as a caterpillar eats incessantly just before it's about to spin its chrysalis, so do we as young adults madly consume and produce. And then the caterpillar decides to take its midlife break in its chrysalis, which is dark and gooey and solitary, but it's also where the transformation happens. On the other side of that, there's a chrysalis that cracks open, and this beautiful winged creature emerges that delights us all, the butterfly. So to recap, the caterpillar consumes, the chrysalis transforms, and the butterfly pollinates. What if we rethought midlife such that it's not a crisis, it's a chrysalis, the midlife chrysalis? What if we thought of midlife as the dawning of a new age, an age where much of what we accumulated dissolves, just as we're ready to transform, spread our wings, and pollinate our wisdom to the world in our 50s and beyond. If you, yes, if you look at life like that, it's maybe possible that it's cool to grow old. Are we ready for pro-aging, not anti-aging products? Can we make aging aspirational? I sure hope so. Thank you. What first?
So for me, that is very exciting to think that I can be in a position where I get to determine what I want to see in my midlife. And the attitude that needs to change is that we're not growing old anymore, but that we're growing whole. And in order for that to happen, again, it's that attitude change of my best years are yet to come. Chip talks about that happiness study that's done, the U curve. And I have gone into it in depth. And what it shows is that as we mature, we also get more, we go more introspective. And with going more introspective, we have more gratitude for what we have in front of us. And we, with this new appreciation, we get to see opportunities differently. So my challenge to you, and why I said we'll turn it from a challenge into an opportunity, is that we're going from looking at midlife as this opportunity to redesign our lives. And that's why I wanted to give you this first exercise called the Suitcase Exercise. And this Suitcase Exercise, I personally use often, and I use with many of my clients as we look at what their financial plans need to look like. And we start with this exercise because we need to get clarity of what this next chapter is going to look like if it turns out well, and what are we going to be taking into this next chapter. So how the exercise goes, and as I said, you'll be able to download it at the end of my presentation, is we need to become clear on what we want to keep. Now, in order to do this, we do need to pause. Now, Harry mentioned it, we're all incredibly busy. But why are we so busy? We're not giving the time and attention to what it is we want because we're continually working on this hamster wheel. So we need to take this opportunity just to pause and to tune into ourselves, tune in. And when I'm saying tune in, it's not the ego in the head. It's more the heart, the intuition, and the gut. And we need to say, okay, what do I want to take into this next chapter? But the way we're going to do it is by looking at what we have and what we want to keep. Because there are many things, our relationships, potentially the career we're in, are things we want to keep. But we've also accumulated a whole lot that we've been carrying sometimes. And mostly this is around beliefs. We pick up beliefs that we got in our childhood. We pick up relationships that maybe aren't serving us. And we need to start getting rid of these things. And the reason we need to get rid is because we need to try some new. And if we bring in these new things, we now have this life where we actually are engaged and meaningful things are brought in, as opposed to just things we think we have to do and we've just always done in the past. And no exercise in my world is ever worth anything if there isn't a column for what we're grateful for. Because the minute we are conscious of what we're grateful for is when we start getting more of it. So I encourage you to do this exercise, and it's a great way just to start you thinking about what it is this next chapter will look like if it turns out well. I will just add that I love vision boards. And when I'm finished an exercise like this with the try new and what I'm going to keep and the grateful, I like to put that on my vision board, because when I can put that on my vision board, it's out there and I'm doing it. My family can see I'm doing it. I'm giving it intention. I'm prioritizing it, as opposed to just actually me doing what I have to do and doing all these roles, but not consciously stepping back and tuning in and working out what it is that I want to be putting in my life. But that said, please do remember the editing part, because the editing part is a vital step in this whole process. I love this song, and I think this song just sums up everything that I've been saying. We've put together this midlife playlist of music, and I play it in my car. And that song, whenever it comes on about the rest is yet unwritten, I get this excited feeling inside me, because when I'm thinking about it, I'm looking for all the opportunities, and can I bring in this? Could I try this? So now as I said, we've looked at possibly how do we redefine this midlife transition, but importantly now is the part of the money, because the money is the enabler. So now we need to look at not only a plan for our life, but also a plan for our money. And this, I think, is the part that people get confused in, and they leave out, because money is this taboo topic. Many people go, I'll get there. It's not on my priority list right now. One day I'll talk about it. But it's really important, because we all know, we've seen the stats, the earlier we start is the better it is for us all. But it's not only because of retirement. It's honestly because of more than that. It's so that we can get to choose what we're doing with our life when we're doing it, because we've got that money that's working for us while we're sleeping, and we're managing to do what it is we really want to do with our life. So it's, if you plan, you prosper. And the process that I want you to consider is first looking at your history, where you've come from. And in that, it's also looking at your principles, what's brought you here. Because if we can understand our past, and we understand our past so that we can see what beliefs we've picked up and what is actually reality, we then look at our principles and our values that have got us to this point. We then consider which transition we're going through. And the one thing about this midlife transition that I want to share with you that is vitally important to this midlife transition is the idea that there are many transitions happening all together. So we go midlife, but what happens in midlife? Often it's empty nest as well. It might be change in our careers, it might be change in our relationships, it's menopause. There's a whole host of transitions happening together. And when we have all of these transitions, we're often so that's part of this whole plan. And then we bring it together with our goals. I've spoken about our vision boards. What is it that we want to give intention to, that our money can achieve? And when we have this vision, it's an important part for us to go into what different scenarios can I look at for my life? How do I do my investment planning? What about tax planning? What about risk planning? And finally, what about estate planning for when I'm not here? And then these topics are customized and personalized, and they're yours, as opposed to potentially just buying products and not really understanding how it fits together in your life. So to do this, I mentioned history, and history, and the reason I mention that is because we need to understand how to be the master of our money. Many times I meet people, and actually, like, money for them is a whole lot of fear. Maybe money for them is fear because they've got a lot of it and they don't know what to do with it, and they don't know how to invest it, or they haven't got enough and they're feeling like it's too late, that they can't go into looking into it. And I'm here to tell you that it's never too late for you to look at becoming the master of your money. Because for me, if you were sitting with a therapist, what would you tell the therapist about your relationship with money? Is it your friend? And I'm challenging you, before you get into cash flow analysis and actual detailed plans, get to know what your relationship is with money. Try and find a way to get off the hamster wheel of chasing more and more and more. Because often what we're doing is we're accumulating money to show people around us that we are successful. In the meantime, what we should be doing is coming to a figure that we need financially to help us feel secure. The big question I get from people always is, Kim, how much is enough? How much money should we have? And I cannot ever answer that question, because what one person needs, what one person spends, is completely different to the next person. So that's why this is such a personal journey for you to work out. But it's important that you are giving it attention, that you are thinking about it, that you know how much you spend a month, not because you want to be restricted on a budget, because you want to know that your money is going where it should be going. Another point that I always want to share with people is, pay yourself first. When your money comes in your bank account, put the money aside and pay yourself first, not at the end of the month with what's left, because then you can get that 1% improvement through the year, which at the end results in a 37% improvement, instead of rushing out there, doing something good with your money, then overspending, then doing something good. It needs to be a constant plan. And that's why this plan that I'm talking about is just so important that you're putting together. We want your money in a place where it's not only your friend, but that it's totally working for you. And it can only do that when you give it attention. You really do need to give it this attention. So these are just some questions that I have put on an exercise for you. And I'd love you to do them for yourself so that you can reflect on what I've been talking about today. And I'll just give you the few of them that are on your worksheet. How well are you doing at the life you want with the money you have right now? And again, be honest with yourself. Only you can answer this question. Now, going back to your history, what lessons about money did you learn while growing up? Now, your relationship with money, believe it or not, was already formed by the age of 7. Now, we are not even aware we have a relationship, yet it's been forming all these years, and the most important steps happened before we were 7. So now it's to go back and to look at that and go, which parts are serving me? I'm going to keep that. Which parts aren't serving me? And I'm going to make those changes. And we start by doing that by looking at our first money memory. Because if we look at our first money memory, we can see how it still affects us today. I work with people in their 70s. Their first relationship is still having an impact in them today. What do you think money truly represents to you? Is it freedom to choose? Is it security? Is it love? Get clarity with what it is. And I love this question just to challenge you. If you had all the money in the world, how would you live your life differently? Because many times the things that we would want to do not even involve money. Yet we use money as the reason we don't do a whole lot. We go, well, we haven't got enough. We can't do this. We can't do that. But there's a whole lot out there that potentially we could be doing, but we're restricting ourselves just by the conversation that we've started having in our head by saying, I'm not good with money, I don't have enough, I'm not good enough. So now that we have this kind of background and foundation to our money, we are now ready to start implementing it in a plan and start getting the right investments that we need. And today is certainly not about that. Today is just more the encouragement that you start looking at it and you start putting it together. I want to share a story of one of my clients. His name is Magnus. And what's beautiful about what he's done is he's in midlife. He's worked at a corporate for many, many years, but he's been putting together skills that he can use one day when he becomes potentially an entrepreneur. And unfortunately for him, his company did retrench him in his mid-50s. But instead of seeing it as a challenge, he used it as an opportunity because he had these new skills and he's now formed his own business and gone into an entrepreneurial business, which now he won't have to leave by the age of 63. Instead, he can continue right through into his 70s. Another client, her name is Sue. She came to see me and we were working with these kind of concepts, and she had just gone through a divorce. She had no financial plan and no money. She was in her mid-50s. It was too late. She didn't have enough money, feeling totally disheartened. But I'm pleased to report that it's 10 years on. And because she's seen that it's not too late and she's seen that she's her greatest asset, she's found all these opportunities and she's put in place work, and she started investing, and she's leaving her money to grow. Because the big thing is we don't want to be drawing out from our investments too early in our life. We want to leave them to grow. So both these people, one had enough money, one didn't really, but they both found a way to combine life and money together so that they could get a plan. So one more song, as I said, because I love these songs, is the Pet Shop Boys, about the opportunities around with money. So I am going to, in the QR code, you will get the 2 exercises that I've showed you today, and I would love you to do them. But also what I've included for you is an ebook that I've put together of 10 midlife myths and the truths behind them, and just some steps to get you thinking so that you can make sure that this is your best chapter yet. You can do this recalibration, put yourself in that driving seat of both being in control of your life and your money. You do need to be brave. You do need to be courageous because, again, it's a vulnerable time. It's a time where maybe you don't have the best role models, and you're going to become a role model for communities all around you. And again, remember, I said to you about your relationship with money being formed by the age of 7. Your families are watching you. The people in your life are watching you. And they are forming their relationship by seeing how you are doing this whole money and planning and making sure that money is not your master, but your servant. So when it comes to money, being brave, be inspired, and please be on purpose. Here is the QR code that I promised you. Please just take a shot of it, download the ebook, download these activities. Make sure that today you're taking that first step to make sure that money is in its right place and that it is going to give you and enable the life that you really want to be leading. So thank you very much for joining me in this first session of our summit today. I have enjoyed being with you, and I wish we were in a way in a room together that we could chat, but I know Harry has got some questions for me now, and I'm going to be answering them and hoping that I can give more insights to what you ask. But if I don't, I'll go back and get the information and return it to you.
Thanks very much, Kim. And just quickly, if you won't mind just sharing your QR code again, I think some of the people just wanted to get another snapshot of it.
Oh,
so
sure.
if you can put it up there, then they could get. And if you've got any questions, guys, please type it in and we'll have a look at answering them. So, I loved almost everything you did. the Chip's whole philosophy around looking at midlife, and we've gone through that as a family ourselves in a bit of empty nest at the moment. The suitcase exercise is just brilliant, and I've been jotting down things and going, bit of a surprise for me. But the one that stands out is you said people's relationship with money is formed when they're 7. Now, sadly, many of us have got kids that are older than that. So not only was our money relationship stuffed up, we've done the same for our kids. Where do you start fixing your relationship with money? What do you encourage people to do if they don't have the healthiest of relationship? How do they fix it?
So it's about a money story, Harry. So when I said it's formed by the age of 7, it is. But I do think if we're conscious, like we sit here and we go, we do have most people don't even realize they have that relationship. So we go, yes, I have a relationship. Then we go, okay, we write it down. Like, what are the things we learn? Do you know these little sayings? And I heard my parents say them. I swore I'd never say them. Money doesn't grow on trees. Money is the root of all evil. So we've picked up all of this stuff. So actually it starts by writing down all these things we've picked up and then analyzing and going, oh my gosh, is that true? I mean, are people with money really bad people? If I talk about money, is it really taboo? So when we can pick up, or we can start seeing the theme. So what I call it is write out your money story. So you look at what your money story is, and then you actually analyze it, edit out what's not serving you, and you put in place the part that's the new part you want. I mean, in fact, and I'm just marketing a little bit, I wrote a book called Midlife Money Makeover, where I have a beautiful journal that takes you through rewriting your money story, because I think that's the best place to start. And what you said about our children, and I am a mother of 3 adult children, and I've made a lot of mistakes with them, an incredible lot as well. But guess what? We have the conversations now. And I think that is it. I can admit to them, oh gosh, guys, I was overcompensating. Or, oh, I didn't want you to have any pain, so I fixed everything for you before. So it's more around, having those conversations with your children now and getting them to think like this before, not waiting until they're in midlife to think like this.
Yeah, I think sadly that's the reality. Nobody taught us about money, but we don't teach our children necessarily either. And all those negative connotations are there. Lots of love for your playlist, by the way. So we'll have to get access to that midlife playlist with some great inspiration.
I'll share it with you, Harry, and then you can share it with everybody, because it's a great one and it's really inspiring. I mean, in my car, it was a lady, Lindsay, at my office that put it together, and we're all loving it.
Oh, brilliant. So there will be follow-up emails. Obviously, after the event, we'll get Kim's playlist and we'll put it into that email, and then you'll have access to that. So now we're trying to develop a better understanding of money. What are some of the better beliefs to have around money? Obviously, it'll be personal for each person, but what are the healthy connotations that people can work towards?
Well, Harry, I think it all starts with wanting to be friends with it. So because we've got this like complex thing with money and we've attached so many emotions to it, we attach emotions to it. I mean, money's just an enabler, and it's a thing we exchange for what we want. But no ways, if you speak to anybody, shame is involved with it, vulnerabilities, there's all these different emotions. So for me, it is definitely, you know, to do it is to consider that where it is with all of these different emotions. So I think instead of making mistakes around it, the good place to start is just to consider what it, you know, when I said, what does it represent? Not only what does it represent, what are all of these emotions that are attached to it? Because if we don't, we're going to pretend. I mean, I had a lady the other day that came to see me that said to me she'd rather be going for a colonoscopy than coming to discuss her money with me. So that's what it is. So for me, another one is that money can be abundant. You know, we think of it as so scarce because we talk budgeting and we talk in that way, and there's never enough of it. But changing our mindset around it, and that probably is my biggest thing, is just to change your mindset around it so that we don't make those mistakes.
Yeah, I know people that said it felt like having to get naked in front of a stranger when you talk about your money, because it is something very personal to us. And so it definitely, and I agree with you, starts with that reflection. Even just good old pen and paper, there's a connection in your brain that's different when you're writing something down versus when you're typing with your thumbs or with your fingers on a digital platform. So that's a great place to do that self-reflection, and you've given us some great tools to start that. Now I must ideally work with an expert, and you know, everybody perceives or proposes to be the expert. Not everybody is the expert. How do I find, or how should I look about finding you or the equivalent, somebody who's going to walk that path with me and have my best interests at heart?
And Harry, I think it's a personal thing. I always say as well, you need to like your financial planner. So the big thing that you're looking for a certified financial planner. That is where you get the qualification. So they should have the CFP next to their name. That would be my first starting point. And my second starting point would be try and find somebody who's independent, somebody who has got your best interests at heart, that isn't selling for a commission so that they have to. And there are many that are doing it for commission that are great financial planners. I'm not saying that. So do your homework. You know, you do your homework to find a good doctor. Do your homework to find a good person. Interview a few and find the person that resonates with you. You don't want to be chopping and changing somebody that you've got to work with. This is a plan that you want to keep meeting yearly and checking, am I on track, on track? And please, if they don't want to talk to you about your life, then they're not the right kind of financial planner for you. You have to do the connection between the two. And for me, you know, when you can do that, that's when you're back and wanting to do it, as opposed to someone just telling you and showing you a whole lot of spreadsheets that you've got no interest in.
Absolutely. And yes, if they're just trying to push the product and not understanding your life and where you're wanting to go, then that's a definite no-no. But I also like that interview a few different people, because that connection is important. You must want to see this person, even if you know they might be bringing you some bad news sometimes in the process. Great. So maybe last question. What's the best financial advice you've ever got?
So for me, it's definitely, and it sounds so basic, it's the compounding interest. So One of my favorite books is Atomic Habits. It's not a financial planner, but where he shows in there that you can bring in new habits and you can stack them, stack them, stack them, stack them, and you can get this result. That's my best financial advice that I've ever been given, because at the same time, I haven't overwhelmed myself, because this is what we all do. We overwhelm ourselves. It's too big to do, so I can't start it. But if you can start it with a debit order, just a debit order, but again, it's the one that you do at the beginning of the month, not at the end of the month. That's my second piece of good advice. Not with what's left over. Put it intentionally. That's money I'm paying myself in that debit order to give myself freedom so that I have choice in my life. So, sorry, I had to give you two and instead of just...
Perfectly fine. We're going to stack up as much value as we can for everybody throughout the summit. And thanks very much, Kim. I think that gives us a great foundation. Because life, we need the money, but it is about that being an enabler for meaning. And everything else we talk about today, this starts with the foundation. So really appreciate that. We will, in the follow-up, also share the QR code again with everybody that might have missed it. Definitely go to Kim's website, kimpotgieter.com, I think it is. But also those books that she's written. And I think depending on where you're at, one or both could be relevant. The retirement book, as I've got older, obviously I've seen a lot of people now retiring a lot closer to home, and the money is one side, but the meaning is a whole different side. And that's an unbelievable book that I've recommended to many, many people over the years. And the Midlife Money Makeover, you always need a makeover when it comes to your money. So go get those resources if you need something additional. But I think Kim mentioned it right up front, and it's the reason why our business is also called ActionCOACH. It's not, thanks, Kim, this was interesting, or thanks, Kim, I'll get to it. It is about the actions you're going to take. So you've got the resources now from Kim. Go do the exercise. Set aside some time for it, because if you have to have a relationship with money, you have to spend time on it. You know, how do people spell love? Whether it's children, whether it's staff, they spell it T-I-M-E. You cannot have a relationship with something if you don't spend time with it. And, you know, this gives you the opportunity to start doing that. So, Kim, thank you very much. Great start to our event, and I knew you would be awesome.